What's up, guys? Christian Review Cave here, and I know I uploaded a review of One Piece Chapter 971 the day before. I just was not paying attention to the fact that the latest chapter was going to come out 2 days earlier than I was usually expecting. So, right away, here are my thoughts on One Piece Chapter 972 and the finale, and from what it seems, the finale of the Oden flashback arc. Now, obviously, we kick off right after Oden starts to do the hour in the boiling oil, and time is ticking down. Shinobu is caught by Orochi's handlers and stuff like that, and soon after, what she says ends up reaching into the minds of the people. The truth about Oden and why he's been doing what he's been doing for the past 5 whole years comes to light, and the whole and almost the entire country goes to the execution point to cheer Oden on so he can get out of there. Now, as this is going on, Oden is pleading for his vassals and the people to open up Wano's borders, because he reveals that something happened where the Kozuki clan had to close Wano off from the rest of the world. Now, from what I can assume, from what he's been saying, like a person or a force was around at that time that somewhat threatened the peace of Wano at the current time. For all we know, this could be happened around the formation of the world government. And this is my speculation. And the Kozuki clan ended up closing off their borders to the rest of the world as to not be, assimilated by the world government or whatever horrible forces that are out there in the world at the moment. And Oden basically knows about this whole thing that in 20 years from now, some powerful forces will converge into Wano to help save it and to defeat Kaido. This is actually something that he tells Toki at the end. Tells Toki while he was imprisoned, and we find this out towards the end of the chapter. So as Oden is essentially, playing with his people and his vassals to open Wano up for the eventual coming of the people who will in fact save the country, Orochi, close to the 1 minute mark, ends up going back on the deal, obviously, because he didn't think Oden would survive the whole hour in the boiling oil, and essentially sets his guards to try and shoot them. Now, when this happens, he sets this to happen right as Oden makes it through the hour. When everyone's about to shoot, Oden chucks his vassals out of the board, out of the pot, and they start to run. They start to run like crazy because everyone's starting to shoot them at this point. And Oden can't leave the pot. This is the end of Oden. So as this was going on, Kaido, in a surprising turn, was basically praising Oden for surviving that long, and that his body was basically dead at this point anyway, and that he honestly kind of, from what I can tell from the dialogue, he somewhat respected Oden for his resolve, from what I can tell, and he basically is like, let me just put you out of your misery, just as a way of saying, to show some sort of honor. I mean, it's Kaido. He's not exactly an honorable type, but seeing Oden survive something that a normal person would have died within the first few seconds, it possibly even moved him. He even said that there will be stories told about you throughout history from this point onward, and then as Oden is basically trying to go out in a big blaze of glory and an honorable death in a sense, he does this whole kabuki dance pose and says that I am Kozuki Oden and I was born. And at that moment, Kaido shoots him in the head. He falls into the pot, smiling as he sinks to the bottom, and his skin and the rest of his body starts to boil and wither away. And everyone starts to cry. And the next panel, we see loudly, I believe it was most likely everybody, it was basically what Oden was going to say, to boil. He was born to boil, because technically his name is Oden, and that's kind of a food. So I get the symbolism in that, but it's still very sad. And from that point onward, everyone starts to run away, running to Curry to try and to tell Toki what happened. the arrows that went across the land, telling everyone of what happened to Oden. Yasui got it. He was told that Oden had a very honorable and splendid death. Toki saw it, and then she was reading a paper, letters and stuff that was actually essentially Oden's diary from his travels throughout the sea, essentially telling her that this is basically where I'm going to die. What you have to do now is that there is going to be that is going to appear in the next 20 years. There are going to be people in the next 20 years that will show up in Wano that will defeat Kaido. That's when the final battle, the world shattering war will end up beginning. And so this is where we're going to leave it off, because I believe this is how Toki is going to send Momo, Kinemon, Kanjuro, and Raizo to the future, while everyone else goes their separate ways. Like Ashura goes into hiding, becomes like a Ronin again. The Kappa guy, I forgot his name. He goes off in hiding with Hiyori. He'll end up going into hiding with Hiyori. Kikoku will also go into hiding. Toki will end up dying, and Yasui will also go into hiding for a while, so he can support the people and end up playing a much bigger role than people were initially going to think. And it basically ends that everything will end in the present day. So from this, I was wrong in the fact there was going to be at least 2 chapters leading into the present. With this, I do believe that the next chapter will start off in the past and then transition back into the present. Now, the chapters with Oden's backstory were honestly really nice, and I did like Oden's end. It was hard. It fits the tone of the arc and who Oden is as a character. He went out with a smile on his face. He saved his friends, and he asked them to, save the country. And honestly, you could honestly feel bad for everyone. You knew Oden was gonna die at this point, but it was like this was actually the moment where the hearts of the people basically united, because Oden, after learning the truth about Oden, everyone showed up to cheer him on because of the promise that Kaido and Orochi made to let everyone else go if Oden survived the whole hour. And Oden did. But then, obviously, Orochi went back on that deal because it's Orochi. He's never to be trusted. So, yeah, this is the Legendary Hour, the conclusion of the Legendary Hour. And I have to say, I was honestly really enjoying it. It was something that I was kind of expecting. Orochi was going to go back on the deal. Then Oden would do something to save his friends. Oden would then die in the boiling oil, as previously mentioned, and then we'll end up going to see everyone running away to try and get to specific places to be ready for 20 years from now, for when Wano will need to be saved by Kaido to meet the people that will save Wano. And yeah, I do believe that Oda writing all this has honestly planned this out pretty well, considering that Toki's time fruit only brings people to the future and not the past. So this whole time travel aspect was done well with no real confusion, because she took someone from the past and just jumped them straight into the future, which I have to admit was honestly really well done. Momo's going to go to the future with Kinemon, Kanjuro, and Raizo, as everyone else is off doing their own thing, hiding and preparing, or essentially some of them give up hope until Luffy and the others show up at Wano 20 years later. So yeah, was this a great chapter? Like I said, it was a good chapter. I have to say, I am happy with the way Oda concluded Oden's story and how the Legendary Hour concluded, and also seeing that Kaido actually does have some sort of honor in him, even though it's very little. You can see how strong Oden is as a character and as a person, and how he went out on his own terms somewhat in his last moments. Overall, this was a really good chapter, and I honestly believe that we're going to start off in the past again in the next chapter, and it will, after a few pages, it will transition into the present for us to see the second half of Act 3, or most likely the finale of Act 3, which will end up being the Straw Hats, the Samurai Mink Alliance, fighting against Kaido, Big Mom, and Orochi. And yeah, that is something I'm really excited about, because like I said in previous videos when I was talking about this, Luffy will have to be with everyone else and have to fight off against Kaido and Big Mom. And from what I can tell, Kaido and Big Mom in strength-wise, they are roughly equal. But Kaido is someone that is insanely hard to injure, even with Haki. So having to fight against them will end up being insanely difficult. Plus, they'll end up getting help from the Supernovas if it calls for it. But yeah, overall, those are my thoughts on the recent chapter of One Piece. Everything that happened was stuff that I expected, and even though I expected it, it was honestly really enjoyable to read, and I can't wait for the next chapter next week. So, what did you guys inevitably think of this chapter? Leave everything in the comments below, and let me know. And also, if there's anything you want me to talk about specifically about One Piece or manga at all, tell me down in the comments. If there's something that I missed, like a little clue or an Easter egg or something that helps into what's going to happen in the future of this arc, let me down in the comments below, and hope you guys have an awesome day.